if you don't understand something, you don't hesitate to stop me. Okay. First of all, I apologize because I have to I'm not able to extend the exchanges after 1:40 p.m. Because I have to pick up my children from school. So my presentation will be in 3 parts. In a short introduction, I will describe my background and the background of also of Ecossocialist left in France. And then I will explain why, in my opinion, we must find ways to get out of the logic of the capital accumulation, but also of patriarchy, productivism, and neocolonial and racist policies. All of these exploitations and oppression are, for me, intimately linked. And finally, in the last part, I will conclude with the situation of France. And we are facing now an extremely serious political crisis. I think you know that. And the possibility of resignation of the president of our republic and the victory of the fascists. So it's very grave situation. So I will introduce myself. Yes.
I was going to tell you that well, it's a great moment for us to have you here.
Yes.
And your legacy as, I mean, an ecologist, eco-socialist, and a federal deputy in France is very important for us. And perhaps a quick introduction of ourselves, and then we go back to you to explain us what you just started. I am Professor Antonio Ruas, and well, I have a background in natural history sciences. I think that perhaps similar to you. I did my formation in biological sciences, and then veterinary, and I went to work in the health department here in Rio Grande do Sul state. And but later on, I went to teach at the State University here in Rio Grande do Sul, and I started teaching about environmental management and also health administration. And more recently, my projects were on native people rights and actually sustainability. I mean, applied to native people interests. And politically, I mean, I went to the Liberty and Socialism Party here in Brazil, in Rio Grande do Sul. I'm a member of this party, and within PSOL, Liberty and Socialism Party, I try to, I mean, to organize and engage in the Ecosocialist movement. I mean, some years ago, and including in 2010, I ran for a chair in our federal assembly, but it was more to help the party. But anyway, I came across socialism through Michel Louvi and Joe Covell, and more recently I came across your work and your important, I mean, statements and positions in France through Gauche, Ecossocialiste, and I think that was that inspired me. I mean, to bring your experience, and perhaps we can talk a bit about, I mean, what we can do in Brazil. But what now? We still have my wife, Professor Ceres Victora. She is a professor at Federal University, and she speaks English much better than I do. And she works in several projects. One of them is about the Anthropocene questions and a lot of things, and a lot of, I mean, liaisons with other groups. I'm not sure if France, but and also we have here Robert McCulloch, who is our son-in-law. Actually, our daughter, Robert's wife, is a journalist that who is writing about ecological crisis, more recently about the poison impacts used in Brazil, I mean, indiscriminately in this conventional agriculture, and several other aspects. Perhaps Rob could give us some introduction as well. But anyway, Hendrik, I will give you back the word. But just remember that we'll have the Conference of Parties number 30 in Brazil in November. And then all this talk, all this discussion, debate about sustainability, and also ecosocialism is getting more and more important towards November, when we will have Brazil will hold the number 30 Conference of Parties. And anyway, I know that France now is, I mean, you were starting to explain us that all this situation, and in your position as National Assembly deputy, the position of Gauche, Gauche Ecossocialiste within the France Insoumise, and all these things, and I mean, I think they are all very important for us. And I give you back.
Yes, after I prepare a talk with 3 parts, but if you think it's too long on one part because you are more interesting for another part, you say me, of course. I will, in the first part, I said I will introduce myself and say from which position I talk. So I started to campaigning in 1995. So at the time of the Great Movement, and you know this movement in France to preserve the social securities. But in the 2000s, I was I was writing a thesis on the effect of climate change, and you say that I am also a biologist, and I work on the effect of climate change on forest. But during my thesis, I was also an activist in the anti-war movement in Afghanistan and in Iraq, and I also was a member of the anti-globalization movement during J8 in Genoa, Evian, London, and that's in this period I joined the Revolutionary Communist League as member of the Fourth International. So, and I was member of the LCR. I think you obviously you know the Revolutionary Communist League leadership, and I participated of the founding of the new anti-capitalist party in 2009. So I wanted also to explain the anti-capitalist history, because it's important to understand this history, to understand now the debate we have. So in 2009, we created the new anti-capitalist party, but candidate Olivier Besancenot had won nearly 5% of the vote, and I was very popular, you remember that. But at the same time, a leader of the Socialist Party, Jean-Luc Mélenchon, is worldwide known, created a split on the left and proposed to the Communist Party to create the Left Front in 2012. And the new anti-capitalist party did not want to join this dynamic. And in my opinion, it was a mistake, because there was a big dynamics and during the presidential campaign, and at that time the new anti-capitalist party split in two. One part joined the Left Front because Jean-Luc Mélenchon had reached near 12% in the presidential election, and in 2017 the Left Front split with a divorce with Communist Party, and Jean-Luc Mélenchon create the France Insoumise. So I wanted to explain all those things to explain where come from the France Insoumise. So since 2017, France Insoumise dominate the French left, and it was a surprise in our country, because from the past it was always the Socialist Party that dominate the left in France, and now it was not the Social Democrat but the Radical Party and the France Insoumise that dominate, with 18% in 2017 and 22% in 2022 at the election, at the presidential election. So our movement are the anti-capitalists who were in the left front, and after we built the France Insoumise, and in 2023 we founded the Ecossocialist left. So what are the Ecossocialist left? Finally, we represent a radical Marxist movement, but which also defend more democracy within the France Insoumise, because it's one main disagreement we have with Jean-Luc Mélenchon since the beginning. It's the question of the democracy. And unfortunately, this debate and the fact that we fight against Jean-Luc Mélenchon on that topic on democracy led to my exclusion and that other of comrades last summer. So we have not now member of the France Insoumise because we have been excluded last summer. It's clear for you?
So you were not invested as deputy at the National Assembly, I understand.
Yes. In fact, they decided that I was not invested by France Insoumise, but I tried to win the election with another candidate in front of me, and I win. So now me and other comrades are in another group, and it's the ecologist party within the assembly. So I think it's a problem for us, because half of the Ecossocialist left is within France Insoumise, and the other are not in France Insoumise because we have been excluded. So for us, it's a very complicated moment. So we try to keep all the party together and to have the same intervention with our outside France Insoumise, but it's for us a complicated thing. But I wanted also to say that for us, we want to keep together and not to split, because we think we have the good roots, and for me it's very important in politics to not to navigate by sight, and we must define a clear horizon and then use a well-adjusted compass to find our way in a mass of sometimes chaotic political and economic situation. And our starting point is dialectical materialism, and I think we share that starting point with you. And to understand how a situation evolves and how to act, we must always have in mind a global analysis of the situation, and then we must start from the contradiction at work in the current system. And I wrote a book that came out a year ago called Capital is Us, in which I explain why and how to get out of capitalism. So what we share in the Ecossocialist left, and I think we also share these fundamentals with you, is that the first contradiction that undermines the capitalist system and make it impossible to continue is the limit of the planet. So, in my book, I explain that to self-generate capital needs to go through the commodity money cycle that Marx described in the volume 1 of Capital. And the more the downward trend in the rate of profit increase with mechanization, the faster this cycle have to be traveled to maintain a rate of profit. So in other words, the more important the mean of production becomes, the more consumption and production are needed to maintain the same rate of profit. So for us, capitalism cannot only survive through an ever increasing consumer society. Over to produce goods and services energy and natural resources are needed. So it's impossible to preserve the planet on a long time period without going out the capitalism. And that's why GPD is correlated with CO2 emission. Is that why capitalism is unable to rapidly mitigate climate change? And if you look to CO2 emission, it's clear. So, and now the climate change is causing major crises with an increase of droughts, fire, tornadoes, and often deadly floods, such yesterday in Mayotte and in Brazil. But the exhaustion of natural resources is another limit to the system, and it also results in a serious biodiversity crisis, particularly in rainforests. So, for all these reasons, it's necessary to find a way to go out the capitalism system. But the second contradiction of the capitalism is as old as capitalism itself. It is that the accumulation of capital takes place in a context of fair competition that push toward a limitation of wage. And this wage moderation limits the consumption possibilities of the working class. And the solution is even, and you say the solution is to push households to multiply credits, but it can lead to financial crisis like in 2005. So we have, I think it's one very important thing for us that capitalism now also intersects with other forms of predation, such as colonialism, which produce racism, and fascism can play on fears and it forms of a domination to divide the working class between men and women, but also between heterosexuals and homosexuals, but between French and foreigners, between whites and racialized people, but also between employees and unemployees. And in France, the fascism and the far left, far right party benefit from this division. So now the situation is the situation of, I say that is like a populist moment, because I think that all of this phenomenon undermines the political domination of the bourgeoisie. And this is why fascism and the reaction become a solution for the ruling class. So now the problem is how to avoid this impasse, and we have the same problem in the both countries. And in many ways, I think that the solution are the same that in the 1930s, because to avoid the victory of fascist government, we must avoid leftism and the class against class strategy that the German Communist Party led in 1920s in Germany, by pitting Socialist Party and the Nazi against each other. So we must therefore accept compromise and build in the struggles first, but also sometimes in election, that's what Trotsky called united front. So this is what we did in France with trade union unity during the movement against pension reform in 2023. And we don't win, but the movement was very, very high. And this is what we did during the legislative election in 2022 and 2024, because there is a risk of victory of the National Front, the far-right party. So, but we know that's a problem, because is that the Social Democratic Party, what's in power, does not sufficiently confront the wealthy classes, and in particular the power of multinationals. So we know that without a change of in policy to move towards more social justice and a real ecological shift, the Social Democrats are fueling the rise of the extreme right among the working class. And we saw that with Trump's victory, which is above all a defeat of Kamala Harris. So we have to build a united front of the whole left, but there is a battle between those who are ready to confront the bourgeois bloc and those who have always been incapable to do so. So in French, it's the Socialist Party, but I think that now in Brazil is Parti des Travailleurs, of Lula. Je sais, I don't know in Portuguese how you know Parti des Travailleurs.
Oh, the Workers' Party, PT.
Workers. Yes.
Partido dos Trabalhadores. But I forgot to mention.
Yes, I think the difficulty is in the both countries the same. We have to build unity against fascism, and within left we have to reinforce the hegemony of the radical part of the left. So it's and my conviction, there is never an ideal solution. And the solution comes never from a single leader. So for me, and that's the last point I wanted to focus on, the internal democracy of organizations remains the best way to be in the contact with the militant base, which is itself in the contact with the working class and activists. So living internal democracy is therefore the only guarantee to have a lucid and fair understanding of the situation and of defining the tactical choices best suited to a situation. And this is the main divergence with Jean-Luc Mélenchon, which I also detailed in my book. So I wanted also to discuss with you of that question of democracy within the party, because I think in France it's a very important thing. So I have a last thing to do, and I get to the word. I think there is another a third level of organization, which is the need to bring together all those who are convinced that we must put an end to capitalism, productivism, and other forms of predations, such as patriarchy. So we must build revolutionary parties or movements that are radical, democratic, and unitary. But it's not the same to build these revolutionary groups and to build the radical left. The radical left is larger than the revolutionary group. So we have three levels: the levels of the unity of left, the level of the radical left, and the level of revolutionary party. And it's not easy to build all these levels and to win. So a last part on the crisis in France, but maybe it's interesting to have your back on that reflection of strategy and eco-socialist strategies.
Right. Well, first I forgot to tell you that Robert, who is participating here as well, is also a teacher, and they live in Pittsburgh, United States, and now they'll have to deal with another Trump's office. Yeah. It's gonna be very hard, isn't it, Rob? Rob is, I mean, he knows a lot about U.S. Politics and this sort of things, and perhaps he may tell us something about that. But anyway, I open a space here for Ceres and Rob if they want to ask you something. Rob is speaking from Pittsburgh, U.S.
Yes. Well, I it's an interesting conversation. Yes, as you know, Trump obviously was victorious in the last election, and he is set to roll back environmental regulations in the name of promotion of business interests, unfortunately. So the next at least 2 years, while the Republicans control Congress and the Senate, are set to be challenging for the environmental front here in the U.S. But I actually joined just in case translation was needed. But it seems like the conversation is going quite well, and Sarah's is here as well. But yeah, this is very interesting conversation, and I was wondering what the prospects are now, given the political situation in France, of what is the likelihood that Macron will be forced out of office, and if that does happen, is the National Front most likely to be the party that will assume power, or is there a chance that a party of the left could replace Macron's party?
Now we have a big crisis because Macron wins the election in 2017, but between 2017 and 2022, he had the majority in the parliament. But after 2022, he has not the majority. So, but he decided, because he decided to make a dissolution of the National Assembly. And after that, he have no more majority. So now it's the left that have a majority in the National Assembly, but not absolute majority, because there is 3 parts. So, but we have the majority, the relative majority. And normally in our country, the prime minister come from the party that have the majority. So now it's not the case, because Macron decided to name first and second time now a prime minister from the right. So so we think that if the National Front decide, we have also a new government that will be down. So at the end, I don't see, there is, I think, only 2 solutions. The first solution is that the resignation of the president. It's possible, but he doesn't want. And the second possibility is there is in France there is an article in our constitution that made possible the president to have all the power. And it's just like in South Korea. You see, yes. So he can do that also, but it's all now the journalists speak about is it possible or not. So I think the bourgeoisie have in mind that is one solution. So after, if we have a resignation and a new presidential election, I think that there is only one possibility of victory for the left, is that we have the unity, left, all the left unity. But the problem is that now we have the left, the new Popular Front, and we are together. But if we have a presidential election, we know that Jean-Luc Mélenchon wants to go to the election. And first, he is this position, the position he has taken since 2022, make it very. A lot of people say that he's not. Is dangerous because he's with the terrorists. You know that. So in France now, between 70 and 80% of the people said that Jean-Luc Mélenchon is dangerous. So if we have Jean-Luc Mélenchon against Marine Le Pen, it's possible that the far right win. So the only solution is to find another candidate. But the problem is that with the same program. So we have to keep the radical program, but with another candidate. And France Insoumise doesn't want. So now it's a moment of tension because in the left, because we have to make a choice. At the beginning, we think that we have to wait 2027, but maybe it can be very quick. So maybe in 3 months we have a new election of the president. So you see it's a tough situation.
Yeah.
Right. I think Ceres had a bit of a problem to continue here, but I think she will come back in a moment. But Hendrik, well, it's been very, elucidating your explanations. I'm learning a lot. But I thought of telling you to you and Rob that our situation in Brazil has some similarities, because up to 2010, 2012, I remember. I mean, socialists, I mean, eco-socialists, I mean, socialists, democratic socialists in Brazil. I remember that we position ourselves as an opposition, as against Lula, and not in all things, but we were mostly opposition to Lula and then Dilma government. But we had a candidate in 2010. Was not elected, of course, but at that time we had some issues like Amazon basin forest against the huge dam, hydroelectric dams in the Amazon. This sort of things. Also, there were a huge change in the river San Francisco, which is a huge, I mean, one of the largest river in Brazil, but it was changed to supply water to crops in northeastern Brazil, and with a huge ecological impact. So we were against all this, and also we claimed much more for Native people rights and territory for Native people and all sorts of things. But what happened from 2015? The far right, the fascists came about. They are led by Bolsonaro, who won the office, who was as president in 2018. And it was necessary to change a lot of things, and then the only way was to support Lula and the Workers' Party. Lula was in prison at this time in 2018. He didn't run for the office, but then he was released and won the election in 2022. And the only way for us was to enter the National Front, the Popular Front, led by PT, the Workers' Party, and support President Lula, which is the point we are now. We still support the government. The coming back of Bolsonaro and the fascists, the far left, is still a threat. We don't know. Bolsonaro is presently not possible to him to run. He is ineligible, out of possibility. But he can change that from now to 2026. He can change that, and that's a huge threat. The far left in Brazil, Hendrik. Sometimes I say that I comment that is much worse than for the far right in France, because the far right here is medieval. It is there's unbelievable. They are fascists. They are chauvinist, racist, and they also deny all science. They are against vaccines. And it's something unbelievable. Yes. So I think they are worse than Marine Le Pen, but I'm not sure.
In France, there is Marine Le Pen, but we have other changes. For instance, there is now two media TV that are far right. For us, it's new. Like CNews, it's a TV where every day there is racism, sexism. So for us, it's new, and Marine Le Pen is not the more extremist, but there is Zemmour, which is more extremist, and every day the right in the world are the more against immigrants and so on, and so it's worse in USA, of course, and in Brazil, but maybe if they arrive at the head of the country, it can be terrific in France also. So, but we have the same problems. So, how to build the radical left in a moment where the fascism is plays in the room. So it changes, but it was the same during the 1930s. So when you have the fascism, you have a problem because you are not able to fight against the social democracy and left from the far. It's very difficult. So I think we have to be clear. We have to say to the people that during this election we support somebody to avoid the fascism, but between the election we are in the street, we are with the working class to fight against the left if the left does not take the good laws, and maybe I think now Lula is at the power, but you can help the workers if in strike against Lula. You understand?
Yeah, that's right.
So,
back in 2000, sorry, Hendrik, so just something that I remember now, that back in 2012 and 2 or 3 years after, we thought that Marina Silva, who is our current Ministry of Environment, that she was she was not enough to carry our ecological fight, and at this time she was in the Green Party, but the Green Party was more, not too much.
It was the same debate in the last century.
Just to complete now, Marina Silva is one of our hopes, because the Lula government is I think it's a difficult task for even for Lula and the Workers' Party, because they have to deal with all sort of pressure from the capital, pressure from the agriculture. The huge agriculture in Brazil, they're very powerful, and all sorts of things. So now I think Marina Silva is one of our hopes to put a barrier to ecological impacts, destruction, and all sort of things, and new oil extraction, which is one of her stance. She stands now against new oil extraction in the sea, and all sorts of things. We also have a ministry for native people, which appear to be a good achievement. But the things that our ministry, she is from native community. She's native, Sonia Guajajara, but she's very, powerless. There was something in the government that they apparently they don't want to carry this sort of agenda, native people, ecological things. But anyway, Marina Silva is still there. Now we support Marina Silva, which is something funny, because I myself was a critic of Marina before 2015. But now I support Marina. Marina is our hope. And even now, this Conference of Parties in November in Brazil, I think that she will, she will propose important things there. And all things, they have to adapt. There's no way to escape that.
Of course. And in my book, I come back to the history of Greece, because it was very important for us in Europe. What passed with Tsipras and Syriza in Greece, because they win the election, but they win the referendum, but finally they decide to accept the European agenda, and now the left is in Greece the radical left, because they try it. So I think it's always a difficulty. It's a thing to help the left to win. It is another thing to participate to the government. And when you participate to the government, you have to be sure that you are able to have some victory. But because if you have no victory for the working class, you reinforce the far right at the end. And it's clear with Kamala Harris, I think. It's if you have some victory for the feminism, but you don't have victories on the working class condition, I think after that Trump is elected. So I think if you participate to a government, you have to make to have some victories, and it's very important. So it's always the situation to be able to know if you are able to have a victory. So, and to have a real power. So, but it's not possible to have victories and power if you haven't struggles within the enterprises and with local communities and so on. So there is a link between what we can do in a government and when we can do in the city, in the rural areas and so on. And for us, it's very important that if we arrive in a government, we give some power to the working class also. And maybe it's more important that direct augmentation of wage or I don't know. It's more important to reinforce the trade unions, reinforce the association, the ecological association, and so on. Maybe I have to say that I have to go in 2 minutes. Sorry.
Right. So I think we can go for our final considerations, and we can.
Okay, thanks. But maybe
I'm not sure if Ceres and Rob want to.
I just wanted to say, well, thank you for your talk. And I know you have written quite a few articles and books. And I came across something you wrote about the role of scientists and universities in the sustainability transitions. And I mean, if you want to say, if you may say something about it, I'd love to hear that, because I'm actually a university professor, and this is some of the things that I
yes.
I think every day.
Yes. I prepare a new book on that subject. So, but in my opinion, the science and the university is the important place for revolution, because for two reasons. So the first reason is that there is a struggle for hegemony, and the struggle for the ideas is very important. We see that when in France, but also in USA, the students fight against war in Palestine, in Gaza, and it was very important. But maybe what I think it's very interesting is that science was a way to help the capitalism since many years. But since 1960s, also the scientists and the ecologists, it's the science, the book of Rachel Carson. I don't remember the name in English. Silent Spring.
Silent Spring, yes.
Since this time, scientists and the climatologists and so on begin to describe the deadlocks of capitalism. So from this time, scientists appear for the bourgeoisie like maybe somebody to fight. And maybe you know, I don't remember also this name, is a scientist in Americas who wrote a book. It's Debt Mercants. Maybe you know that book. It explains that capitalism and try to produce false scientists and it was the case for climate, but it's a case for tobacco and so on, to explain that finally they have to overcome the scientists' results and so on. And now in France, but in many countries, scientists organize themselves to fight against climate crisis and social injustice and so on. And in France, we have now, since 1 year, we have some political who fight directly against scientists, and not the far right, not only the far right. The prime minister decided to go to science, the political science school in France, and they say it's not possible to help Gaza and so on, and we have to change the direction of the school. So the scientist was amazing. It was the first time that academic liberty was broken down by a prime minister in France. So, and I think in Trump, and the fake news and so on is something that is necessary for the system to fight against the results of science, because the results of science at the end explain that finally we have to end the capitalism. So that's why I think science now is a very important field of battles between the capitalism and us, and so. But I have written a paper in English on that topic. I can send you.
Right. I don't appreciate. Rob wants to.
Since I was elected, I don't speak English, so it's terrific. But the next time it will be better.
Right.
I hope there is a next time, and then perhaps you can.
Oh yes, Rob. I don't know if you want to say some.
Oh, I just wanted to thank you for allowing me to join this conversation, and it's very interesting and informative. And
yes.
I wish you all the best.
And me too, Hendrik. It was really a pleasure, a great moment to have you here and to listen to you and
yes.
your experience, your trajectory, and things that you brought about in this life. And well, I'd just like to finish to say that I think our situations are not that different. We have similar difficulties, but I agree with you. I think we have to do all our efforts to pursue our path, because I think that Brazil, France, the world are in a difficult situation. So we have to do something. Political way is perhaps the only way.
Thank you very much.
Very much.
In touch, and maybe we can do that another time. Okay?
Yes, that's right. We'll continue in contact, and we can plan some other talks. And if you can send us, the references of your books, that would be great.
Okay.
Okay. Hendrik.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Merci.
And see you later. Au revoir. That's it. Well, that was quick. That was.
Foi ótimo.
Foi ótimo. Obrigado, Rob, por ter participado.
De nada. É um prazer. Obrigado. A Carla não está disponível. Ela levou a Georgia na piscina, então.
Querida.
Que legal.
Uma boa causa.
Ela deve ter gostado de ver.
Então tá, Rob. Deixa o Rob trabalhar.
Tá ok.
Tchau, Rob.
Beijos. Tchau.
Beijo aí no pessoal. Tchau.
Eu não sei sair aqui, tu tem que fechar.